Fans, we are back live with a special edition of the Cheap Heat Productions Pro Wrestling Podcast. My name is Jack Kilby, Executive Vice President of Great North Wrestling, and we have a real treat here tonight for you. We are talking about the premier Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, cosplayer, impersonator, whatever you label you want to put on this man. He is ubiquitous across social media, has quite the story to tell, and I would be talking about Mike Raimondi, but to those who know, he is the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. Dusty or Mike, welcome to the show tonight, sir.
Baby, I'm honored here to be live at the mothership, TP Productions, out in color, out in public, if you will. So I'm happy to be here, and I love talking to you guys, and it's a great show. So, baby, let's get to it, baby.
Well, we appreciate you coming on tonight, Mike. We've got a lot of questions, but I think the obvious one is those of us that grew up as fans of professional wrestling. You know, we all had our favorites, and we would try to impersonate them. I did a very, very mediocre Macho Man back in the day, but how did you get to this level of success? And we'll get into the various accolades that you've achieved. But how did you land on the decision to do what you do and be the Dream?
Baby, I'm going to break kayfabe for a little. I'm going to go in and out, if you will. So, a real good friend of mine, Paul. He was getting married, and it was his bachelor party. And, it wasn't the typical bachelor party. His bachelor party was WrestleMania in MetLife Stadium. So we were, a couple guys having fun all weekend. And the day we went to WrestleMania, it was one day back then. I said, man, I got to do something to really, break his chops. So I made a polka dot shirt. I went to Party City the morning of and bought like a $10 wig, and I had elbow pads, and I show up to pick him up at his house wearing the Dusty gear, and he's just like, what are we doing? What are we doing right now? So then I start doing a little bit of the voice, and as I'm in the parking lot, we're tailgating, people start coming over to me, and I start doing the voice, and people start taking pictures with me. And my friends are just like, what is going on? They're like, this is so unexpected. And people are like taking pictures of me and asking me to do videos. And that's how it really started that day, with a polka dot t-shirt and a $10 wig and an elbow pad. And the fans were just into it.
Did you do or did you have a faculty beforehand? Two-part question. Did you have a faculty beforehand for impersonations, and did you do Dusty specifically, or what was it about the Dream that attracted you to his persona?
I never, I did like drama club as a kid. I've done stand-up comedy, but I never saw myself like doing impersonations. I first was introduced to Dusty 1989 WWF at the time, and I was a little Hulkamaniac. But if you remember at that time, it was Hogan versus Warrior was the build for a long time. And they were doing those crazy promos, load the spaceship with the rocket fuel, Hulk Hogan. And I really didn't like good guy versus good guy. And around this time is when Dusty came in. And, Hogan and Warrior are flexing, going crazy. And Dusty, baby, he's just a common man. Baby, he looks like your uncle or your neighbor that's looking to kick somebody's ass. And Dusty started feuding with the best heels, Honky Tonk Man, Boss Man, Macho King, Randy Savage. So I wasn't really interested in the Hogan Warrior as a kid. And as a kid, I remember thinking that this was going to be the end for Hogan. So that's how I fell in love with Dusty.
Mm-hmm. were you aware at the time of probably because you were a youngster, but were you aware when you first saw what a magnetic personality, his introductory vignettes to WWF? Were you aware that he was um, even at that time a legend in the business, or was it just his personality that attracted you to him?
I had never heard of him before. I didn't even know what Jim Crockett Productions or WCW was. I was a WWF family. My father was, my family. I'm an Italian from Italian heritage. They love Bruno Sammartino, and I had no idea of his past until much later. And I think, like I said, there was just something about him. He was kind of an underdog, also. He didn't have the great physique. You can tell he was up there in age. He wasn't the typical superhero good guy that was on TV at that time. The Hogans, the Warriors, I mean, those guys. And it was just something about him that being a normal guy, baby, being a common man, baby, I'm the pizza man, I'm the butcher man. And it was like, wow, this guy can hang with all these guys, with Honky Tonk Man and Macho King, and he had a really good winning streak. I mean, he was super over, and yeah, it was just a great time.
So when you first broke out the persona and the impersonation, you told me off air that you went with the WWF Dusty with the polka dots. Was it something that took you a while to warm up to the reactions that you receive? I'm interested to know your process for preparing to be Dusty, from when you first broke the character out till later on down the road.
When I first started doing it, I pretty much based it on all the WWF stuff, the Common Man stuff, and all that. And I had watched so many interviews with Dusty. I mean, I've watched as much as I could. I've gone back to all the way to Florida Champions Wrestling, Georgia Champions Wrestling, and I had saw him do interviews saying that it was important to him that people also remembered him for his NWA days, and he was a three-time NWA champion. I loved him for just the polka dots. I knew nothing more. And as I started watching the promos and doing all my homework, I kind of have a Dusty vocabulary in my head of things he said, words he said, and I started doing other versions of him. And I think it's important to him, and it's important that wrestling and his family and everybody, that we don't forget about the baby, the bunkhouse stampede, baby, the 3-time winner of the bunkhouse stampede. And then he was a 3-time world champion, and he was a lot more than just polka dots.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Do you find when you go out into the events that we'll talk about, the fan fests and whatnot, that you get different reactions depending on the iteration that you have at the time? For example, the JCP bunkhouse version right now, as compared to the the controversial for some folks polka dot deal that Vince allegedly put on Dusty to bury him.
So I wore this outfit at WrestleCon during WrestleMania, and I had met Dustin, and he told me this was his favorite. I mean, he's seen me in all the outfits. He follows me on social media. He's seen it all. And I walk up to him in this outfit: cowboy boots, Wrangler jeans, cowbell bull rope, and he's just smiling, and he's like, let me see this bull rope. He goes, it's a little short. I don't know if it's going to work. And I told him, well, baby, I got it on Amazon, baby. I'm not a real cowboy. But he really appreciated the attention to detail. And the funny thing was that Dusty's wife, Michelle, she was there with the Dusty Rhodes Foundation, and she was wearing a handkerchief, this style handkerchief as well, which I had no idea. And it was just really funny to see that she was wearing this handkerchief, the American flag handkerchief that he used to wear. It was probably his.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, you know, they appreciate that. And then my friend Jack, wherever I go to WWE event, I say, what should I wear? His motto, he always texts me the same thing: WWE loves polka dots. Because every time I wear polka dots to WWE events, they film me. They brought me in the ring with Cody Rhodes. So I really do think that WWE itself is still stuck on those polka dots.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, it's their creation, if you will, their version of the dream. I'll skip ahead a little bit because you brought it up, but how did the process work for you for starting this initial deal, kind of as a spontaneous thing, to having contact with WWE? And we've all seen the posts on social media, that incredible one that you did with Cody, where he handed you the mic and he said something like "Don't mess it up" or whatever. And boy, did you nail that! I when I saw that, I thought, wow, mad respect to that dude, because I'm not so sure I could pull it off like that. So how did you start to get integrated into the WWE events, etc.?
The reason why people love what I do is because I'm just a fan who buys a ticket and shows up and has fun. And I always tell people, you never know what's going to happen. When I go to the events, I tell my wife, keep your eye on social media and keep your eye on the TV, because you never know what's going to happen. And none of this in the beginning was planned at all. I'm just buying a ticket, showing up, and having fun, dressing like Dusty. The night Cody handed me the microphone, really had my social media, and people started realizing who I was. And the funny thing is, people who had met me before were like, oh my God, I know that guy. I can't believe this. And I always say, after everything, I don't think we will ever see that again, where even at an untelevised event, that a talent would hand a fan a live microphone. I don't know if it's ever been done, and I don't think we'll ever see it again.
No.
To me, that is, I'll still watch it today and shake my head and like, I still can't believe that happened. And I tell people, Cody threw me a fastball right down the middle. He's like, here you go, like home run derby. And I swung and thankfully hit it out of the park. So I think I did.
So set the stage for that particular encounter. You were there, you were ringside. Did he see you before? Like how? Like, because as you point out very, very, very correctly, I think that's unprecedented. When I saw that, that's what I'm thinking. Wow, this has never happened before. So how did that that whole deal come about?
I'm on the floor. I'm not front row. I'm about 10 rows deep, and Seth Rollins throws Cody out of the ring, and they're punching each other at the barricade, and then Seth Rollins spots me out because some fans started chanting Dusty, and he's looking around like, what is happening? So he points me out, and he points to me. At this time, him and Cody were feuding a lot. Next thing you know, him and Cody are fighting over the barricade, and they come all the way deep, about 10 rows deep, right in front of me. And Cody takes somebody's beer or soda, picks it up, hits Rollins in the head. And after he does that, he just looks at me, stares at me, looks at me up and down like this, and goes back to the ring. Like, I was like, well, he noticed me. And towards the end of the match, Seth is trying to pin Cody, and Cody keeps kicking out. So Seth starts pointing to me again. And Seth starts doing the jabs, the jab and the
Flip, flop, and fly, right?
flop and fly, baby. And he misses it. Cody hits the crossroads, and the match is over. And I'm, when Rollins is like taunting me, I just say to myself, is this really happening? Like, what is happening right now? Like, this guy is taunting me, and the fans are just like, and the guy I'm sitting next to, he's like, are you a plant? are you a plant? I said, no. I said, this is my ticket. I said, my father was supposed to go with me and he got COVID. My friend was supposed to go with me. He got COVID. So I'm sitting there by myself. And that's how it happened. Yeah.
And when you obviously had no idea that you were going to get a live mic, but when you had the Iggy that was going to happen, what were you thinking in terms of, okay, this is my this is a big deal, this is a big shot, or was it just automatic that you've done Dusty for so long that you came out with the Blue-Eyed Soul that captivated the country just like that? Because it seemed, honestly, from a person watching, it seemed like, wow, this was definitely set up beforehand, but it wasn't.
No, it was. I thought maybe he'd bring me over to a picture and a hug. And when he started saying, "Can you do a Dusty impression?" the wheels started going in motion. And I was already thinking, I want to say something, a direct quote from Dusty. I want to say something old school because I was wearing the NWA style Dusty. And I want to do something old school, and I want to do something where Cody will definitely know that it's old school. It's so. When he started saying, "Hey, come down here," I'm like, "All right, I know what I'm going to say." And then I didn't expect him to say, "Ladies and gentlemen, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes." You see me shake my head. I'm like, this, I'm really can't believe this is happening. And I just stood straight into the camera, and I just went like, "Baby, I just thank God that the people like yourself, that come out see the American Dream, because growing up, I sure didn't think 265 pounds of blue-eyed soul could captivate a country like I have. The people drive me." And that's also in the very beginning of Dusty's tribute video that they played when he passed. So I don't know how. I kind of prepared for something to happen, but I never thought it would. I kind of had something to say, what to say to him, but I never thought it would unfold like that. And like, it was just perfect timing. It can't be explained. It really can't. But it started out just buying a ticket on the floor.
And what a perfect soliloquy to use in that particular situation. Because again, when I first saw it, I thought, okay, he's going to do the hard times deal, but that was a deep cut. So that no doubt impressed him. In terms of his family, his wife, Cody, Dustin, how. I want to think how to phrase this, but are they were they at first taken aback, or how did they receive you? Because obviously you're doing a very respectful, reverent portrayal. How has that feedback been? And then I wanted to ask you about when you got into the ring with Cody too.
Well, whenever I do it, I always have his family in the back of my mind. I always remember that, I'm doing character, but I'm remembering that he has a legacy, he has a family. Dusty is a larger than life. He's just different. Dusty is just held in a different standard. And I had met Dustin at independent shows, and he had seen me dressed like Up the Crowd, and he loved it. But I had never seen them after Dusty passed. This was when Dusty was still alive. So after Dusty passed, I was at an AEW show, and I'm wearing the polka dots. It was very early in AEW, right after COVID, in Newark, New Jersey. CM Punk had just got there. He comes out. He's going to do commentary. And as he comes out, he walks around the ring, and he grabs me, and he puts his arm around me, and I'm on TV for a good 15 seconds. And the fans are going crazy. I walk back to get a soda or a drink, and a girl comes up to me, and she works for AEW. She's a photographer. And she says, "Do you mind if I take your picture? I love your outfit." I said, "Yeah." And I said, "Wow, you look very familiar." And she smiled. And I'm like, "What's your name?" She's like, "Dakota." And I'm like, "Dakota?" I'm like, "Are you Dakota Rhodes, Reynolds?" And she's like, "Yeah, I am." And my mind was blown. I'm like, And her mind was blown that she would see someone dressed like this after all this time. And she's like, I was like, I can't believe I'm running into you. And she's like, I can't believe you're wearing that. It's awesome. And we kind of became friendly. So that was my first interaction with Rhodes' family after Dusty passed.
And then you eventually made it into the ring with Cody.
Right. Same arena that the microphone incident happened. I just go there, bought a ticket. I was with my nephew, and Cody does his entrance, and I'm standing there, and he again stared right at me. You know, you could tell when someone's looking right at you. And I'm sitting in my seat, and WWE security starts coming over to me, and they tell me, hey, can you come over here a second? And I'm like, sure. And they're like, where are you sitting? And I'm like, well, just where you were. I'm sitting there. So like, go back to your seat. So then WWE security's sitting there. I'm like, I don't know. Do they think I'm going to do something stupid? I'm like, I would never do anything dumb. And then I hear on the walkie, they're like, yeah, we got eyes on him. So Cody has his match, and then he's on the microphone, and he's like, is Dusty in the arena? And he's like, Dusty, why don't you, I have a very weird request. Can you come over to the ring? So the funniest part of this whole thing is they expect me to jump over the guardrail, which is not easy to do. And Cody goes, don't worry, the real Dusty wouldn't have been able to jump over there. So he says, why don't you take the long walk? So now I'm doing I'm walking the aisle, as they say, and the fans are cheering like crazy. And I get in the ring, and the other two guys in the ring, I can't remember. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. And I remember shaking their hand, and I don't know what to do in there. I'm in full polka dots. I shake their hand. I'm like, hey, nice to meet you. And then we do the, we all do the Too Sweet, the Bullet Club. And then I just went over to Cody and I hugged him and I said, thank you. I said, you are the best. I don't know what to say. And then I said, can I raise your hand? He goes, yeah. And I raised his hand in victory and pointed to him, and the crowd was nuts. And then I start getting myself over with the crowd. And then they're like, okay, sir. I'm like, okay. It was really it happened so fast, and it's a blur. It really is a blur. It was a blur. I mean, but it's an unbelievable moment. It's an unbelievable experience, and it's all because of Cody. He, what you see with Cody, he's a really genuine guy, and what he does for the fans is incredible.
And many fans, perhaps that are familiar with your work, don't know that you got you're fortunate enough prior to his untimely passing to meet the man himself and give you the seal of approval, so to speak. Can you talk about that?
Well, I was telling you, I had met Dusty very briefly at WrestleMania. I was in full polka dots. He's doing the pre-show. He comes down to the guardrail, gives me a hug, and it's like, baby, I love it, baby. Fast forward a few months. It's the night before Battleground, where it was him, Cody, and Dustin versus Shield. I don't know if you remember that, in Buffalo, New York. So he was in New Jersey at a convention. So I go in there. I'm dressed in the polka dots again, and he's in a room, private room. So I show him my ticket. As soon as I walk in the room, a lot of people start giggling. And Dusty's just down signing autographs. So he looks up. He's like, what is everybody laughing at? So he looks at me. He sees me, and he's like, oh, that guy. He's like, that guy's got to go to the back of the line, baby, the back of the line. So his handler was like, I don't know if Dusty's going to like this. And I'm like, oh, man, this might backfire. So I get all the way up to him, and I go to shake his hand, and he just brings me in for a huge hug. And I just remember his hands and his wrists being very big. And he was not a touchy-feely guy with the fans at all. And I really didn't even know what to do. And I remember he hugged me. And I said, do you remember me, Dusty, from us? He's like, baby, of course I remember you. He's like, I only paid for a picture. He's like, baby, let me give you an autograph. He's like, pick out one of the pictures. So he's got all the Jim Crockett there. So, of course, I picked the polka dots. He's like, I had a feeling you're going to pick that one. So I go, Dusty, I said, I got to ask you something before I leave. And he took his time with me, and he was very gracious and everything. And he smiled so good at the picture. I said, you see me at WrestleMania. I started going to events like this. The people take pictures of me. They love it. I'm like, what do you think? Do you want me to, keep doing this? He's like, baby, you have to, baby. You have to keep doing it. And I haven't been to any kind of wrestling event in over 10 years, not in some version of Dusty. And, that's the ultimate blessing, and I don't think even him, he's probably laughing that it's still going on. And what has happened since then?
Well, it speaks to the love that the fans, the old school fans, still have for Dusty, and then of course with Dustin and Cody's success, it's just kind of catching lightning in a bottle. Wanted to ask you though about when you're at these fan fests and you just you meet the fans that want your autograph, want a picture, et cetera with you. Does it kind of blow you away how loved the Dream is still to this day?
Every time. I mean, at WrestleMania weekend, it was insane, the amount of pictures and promos. And this fella came over to me. He goes, my grandmother couldn't make it here today. He's like, can you send her a video message? And I'm like, of course. And then I see him the next day. He's like, my grandmother loved it. She was a huge fan of Dusty. And the kids are like, oh, that's Cody's dad. And I just went to Fanatics Fest in New York. WWE, it's like the Comic-Con of sports in New York. WWE had a very big showing there. And man, there was a point for about a half hour where I was taking pictures and I couldn't move. I mean, I felt like Disney World. It was just, and I love doing it. I love doing it. And I love meeting all these people and how much they love Dusty and how cool it is. And, but even when I was exhausted when I got home, and I had told my wife, I'm like, I can't believe, the reaction it still gets and how many pictures and videos and everything and interviews. And I'm like, I said, it blows me away.
Mm-hmm. What about some of the folks that in the business knew Dusty personally? When you're at these fan fests, you must run into them. What is the reaction from those wrestlers, ex-wrestlers, or people in the business generally that may have worked with Dusty?
Mostly positive. I mean, a lot of them, they will bring me in for pictures and videos. I went to convention, and DDP, who was obviously very close with Dusty, and I start going over his table. He's like, Dusty, come over here. And he's like, he's like, get my phone. And, I start going, baby, Dallas, baby, how does it feel to be world champion, baby? I told you. And Bischoff, I've met Eric Bischoff, and he, when you see yourself on their social media, it blows your mind. So a lot of them have good response. Sandman from ECW, a lot of them have in conventions will tell me, hey, come here. Last year, Comic-Con, Mick Foley's like, hey, Dream, can you give me a little promo? And he brings me behind the curtain in Comic-Con, and, I give it, he's like, awesome. So, I mean, that is, you can't really, I mean, that it's such a, you can't get more kudos than that. Mm-hmm. When some of these legends that, and a lot of them will be like, oh, he sounds like him, he looks like him, he'll laugh. Al Snow, Tommy Dreamer will come up to me like, oh, I love that version. I love the outfit. So, Ric Flair.
I was going to ask you about him. Did you ever encounter perhaps Dusty's most prolific opponent in Ric Flair? I would have loved to have seen tape on that if you have.
It's on my social media. Long story short, my good friend of mine, Lou, he's going to meet Charlotte, and I'm with him, and we're walking, and I didn't even know Flair was going to be in the same room. So I'm in the full polka dots, and I walk in the room, and he starts laughing. And I'm like, Rick, and it was a long day waiting on crazy lines. It was March, raining cold. So I'm like, Rick, baby, There's a lot of hard times going on here. I had to wait in line for 2 hours to get up here, baby. And you're just sitting here, whining and dining with kings and queens. And Flair is cracking up. So I just keep going. So Flair's like, have you gone? He's like, Cody's got to see this guy. I'm like, baby, I'm going to see him in a minute. God knows I love Cody straight from my loins, baby. So, and then I say, Rick, what's always Rick on Rick's mind. I'm like, Rick, baby, I think we still have one more match. Let's go make some money. And he's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, I got one more in me. A great fighter always has one more match in him. And he's laughing, and he said he signed an autograph, and I kind of stopped. I don't want to. People are trying to get autographs and pictures. I'm in the middle of the whole room, and he's like, man, I remember he said, Flair, he goes, you got that shit down. He goes, you're better than. He's like, you're almost as good, or you're better than Jay Lethal, who does a lot of the impersonation. And when my friend heard that, and my dad was with me too, and when they heard that and saw that interaction, they were floored, because it takes a lot to impress Rick. A lot. He is still Ric Flair. And one of my friends, Joe, who's a huge fan of Ric Flair, I sent him the video before I posted it, and he says, I can't stop watching this.
That's awesome. It's like a Twilight Zone episode almost. In terms of Dusty's work, and I know you've talked about the polka dots, and you were you're a WWF kid, etc. What would you consider the highlight of his career in ring, and would that possibly be that extensive multi-year run against the Four Horsemen that the old school fans like myself really still hold in reverence? He was the perfect foil for Ric Flair a lot.
Yeah. I believe it's Starcades against Flair. I believe Dusty thought that was the best of his career, those Starcades against Flair. And then when he finally beat Flair, Great American Bash for the title, I think that time period is the peak, of his career. And for a lot of wrestling fans, they feel that was the best time in wrestling ever. That's their favorite, Jim Crockett, WCW Saturday Night. That is their favorite era of wrestling ever. I hear a lot of fans say that. And, Starcade, what Dusty's creations, Starcade. And so I think those 3 matches against Flair and the Dusty finishes and the stopping the match for the blood, the interference with the Horsemen. I think that's peak Dusty. Hard Times promo, all those promos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would definitely agree. It seems that there's I don't want to say a renaissance, but it's a unique period of time based on what I've seen on social media in terms of you've got some really skilled impersonators out there, of which you've done videos with Sheik and Macho, and that seems to, I mean, there's always been impersonators, but you're in some company of some really skilled folks. Do you find that that's something that is increasing in popularity when you go to these fan fests? You see, because of your largely your success, it seems like we're seeing more and more very entertaining characters at these events.
Yeah, Macho Man, that's the Macho Verse, and Iron Sheik, Camel Clutch cosplay. Those 2 guys are the best, and they're even 2 better people. Good friends of mine. We met at events doing this, and they put a lot of heart and soul into it, everything, their costumes. And I think when you get shown appreciation by people in the business, those 2 were just on Hulk Hogan's Instagram, recreating Mega Powers and Iron Sheik. So those 2 guys, man, when the 3 of us together, it's so much fun, and we do our best trying to unfortunately, these wrestlers, these performers are they're physically gone. The people are gone, but we try and bring these characters back to life for the fans. Um, and we work on everything from impersonations and videos, hand movements. I mean, we accurate costumes and attire. I think, and you'll see it now. There's people doing Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley, and they love it. So when the wrestlers and the performers, people in the business are loving it and giving you credit to do it, I think you're going to see more people do it, and I think it's going to get bigger and bigger.
Mm-hmm. Do you have from your appearances, and we'll at the end of this discussion provide fans with your social media and contacts. Are you getting a lot of calls or emails or whatnot to appear at events now that you're on fire, so to speak?
I mean, I've done podcasts. A lot of people always message me, hey, can you try and make my show? I love to go to them all. I'm a blue collar baby. I'm a blue collar common man. I work about 60 hours a week. I'm a husband. I have a 9-year-old daughter. I have a lot of stuff going on. I'm a big family man. Church. So I'd love to go to them all. I just physically can't, financially can't. But I'll always help people out as much as I can. And like I said, I think people love it because I am a fan. I always say, hey, I'm going to buy a ticket and show up, and maybe something cool will happen. And I'm going to meet people and take pictures and have a lot of fun. And I think that's what people gravitate towards, especially nowadays. There's so much negativity. There's so much going on in the world. Everything. And Dusty even said himself, he said, people paid money to be entertained and forget about their problems for a few hours. And whenever I do this, that's what I do. I shut the whole world off, and it's just all fun, all Dusty, all wrestling, with my friends, with Macho, Chic, meeting new people. I've met so many people doing this that I would have never met.
Mm.
And it's funny because when they start finding out about me, they're like, wait, what? I'm like, baby, I'm just a common man, doesn't this? I really am. And I think that's why it works. I think that's why they're like, wait a minute, you're a pipe fitter, you're a union pipe fitter, and you just, you hang out with your family and you dress up for Halloween, and I show people I'm just a normal guy. And I think a lot of people are like, wow, this just normal guy is really doing all this. I think that's why people gravitate to it.
Mm-hmm. And like you just said, so there's so much negativity in the world right now. When a fan sees you, it's 100% positivity and fun. But I wanted to ask you, because you're obviously, you have a faculty and a skill for this. Not everybody can do what you do to the high level that you do. Have you ever had an interest in expanding from Dusty to try another wrestler or somebody else, or are you just the Dusty guy for perpetuity?
I tell people I'm a one trick pony, and I feel if I have such a connection with him, with the fans doing it and meeting his family, meeting his, I feel like if I did someone else, it just, and when you get it from the man himself and you tell him you're going to do it, it just wouldn't feel right. And I don't think my heart would ever be into it as much as doing Dusty. And that's the honest truth. I mean, when I'm out there doing it, and I'm my heart is in it 100%.
Mm-hmm. And to boil it down to, if you had advice for other fans that want to do what you do, what would that be? Because you got to look at it from the perspective of, to do the costume, the voice, and be as out there as you are. That takes a lot of courage, whatever you want to call. I certainly wouldn't dress up like Macho and Butch or something like that. So, hats off to you guys. But what would you advise the average fan that sees the fun, and is contemplating doing, say, Austin or whoever?
Find someone to do that fits your passion. Find someone that you can relate to. Let's face it, I'm a bigger guy. I have a dusty built. You know, I mean, it's, you got to find someone that you really have a passion to do it accurately, do it respectfully. Unfortunately, and I'm sure you've seen even in wrestling promotions, a lot of people have done terrible Dusty impressions and mocked him and made fun of him and ribbed him terribly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you can do it a certain way, and like I said, always have his family in the back of his mind. And I'll tell you, when I had met Teal, his daughter, at StarCast a couple years ago, when it was fairly new doing it, and people are taking pictures of me, and I told her, I said, hey, listen, I said, I just want to let you know, if you ever feel a certain way about anything I do or post, you can always reach out to me. And I said, because the last thing I want to do is upset the people that he loved the most. And I said, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart. And I remember she goes, Mike, if I had a problem with you, you would have heard from me already. So kind of like saying, you're good. And I remember saying, you're good. And I said, there's always an open line, and it could be private. And I mean it 100%. And because Dusty's daughter Teal is Cody calls her the defender of Dusty.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, listen, I have a daughter. That's how daughters are. They are very loyal to their dads.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I always have that to say, hey, we'll make a video. What do I do? If I ever had to give it to them and say, hey, is this okay to put out? I would want their always to be like, yes, it's funny. It's good. It's, I like it.
Well, I think WWE would be wise to somehow integrate yourself into some kind of an angle or a storyline with Cody, because, man, all the feedback that I've seen about your work is 100% positive and incredibly entertaining. But Mike, what's next for you, and where can the folks find you and keep up with all the good stuff that you're doing?
You could find me on Instagram, Dusty Tribute. Easy, and that's what it always was. It was a tribute to Dusty. Myself and my whole group, Macho, Iron Sheik, Bianca Belair, and all these other characters will be at Comic-Con Friday, the Friday Comic-Con. We actually have an official meetup with Comic-Con. Congrats to Aaron, the Machoverse. He worked hard to really get us to be an official group to appear at Comic-Con, which is really cool. Last year we had a really good time. So that is where I'll be next, Friday Comic-Con. World Wrestling Cosplayers. We're a growing group, great group of people. And what I imagine doing this, what the end goal for me, what I really want to do, I want to go to conventions, and I want to get like a booth with all my guys, and I want to each convention like pick a charity and take pictures with the fans and be like, hey, listen, we did it in May for Justin Strong, little boy Justin. His father's actually on the Independent, Justin Carino. Unfortunately, he's battling leukemia. So we did it for him. That was the first time we ever did it. And we were telling people, hey, we'll take pictures. We're looking for a donation for a cause. That's how I always envision doing this, like doing the biggest conventions, Comic-Con, WrestleCon, Fanatics. Be like, hey, listen, this is what we do. We're good at it. We're passionate about it, and we can help people too. That is hopefully the goal, the long-term goal that we're working on.
Well, that's just tremendous, and I really appreciate you coming on the show tonight. I have a request, so I'm wondering if you could take us out as the dream, please.
Baby, it's the American dream, the common man, the son of a plumber, if you will. And you've been watching Cheap Heat Productions, live and in color, in public, if you will.
That's just tremendous. Want to thank you again, Mike, for your time. We'll keep in touch, and I follow you on social media. I highly recommend that the fans do and support your work and the work of the other folks, because really adds a lot. And that's what wrestling, in the polarizing, sometimes tribalistic nature of the business in the modern era, you're a throwback to a time when it was fun and entertaining, and really enjoy your work. So thanks for coming on tonight.
My pleasure. I really appreciate you having me on. I love your work. Thank you. My pleasure.
Appreciate it. So fans, that's it for this edition of the Cheap Heat Productions Pro Wrestling Podcast. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and like this video. It helps us out, and you'll continue to get unique and interesting content like this one.
Thank you very much for watching this video. Please subscribe to the channel if at all possible. It would really help me out. And don't forget, you can check out my back